And I like that our police have asked them to leave. So I'd ask all people, voters, all agents to be wary that there are some elements of rigging trying to be done by the chiefs. Yeah.
All right, Linda, as you can see, it is a rather interesting process, but there's a confirmation that, of course, we're waiting for the IEBC officials to give us in detail, and it is a matter of national concern that we will definitely be following up for you. So back to you in studio.
All right, well, Grace Josephine there also telling us what the scenario is like in Muguga Ward, Kabete constituency. This, as I would say, the day is still young, and she'll be giving us more updates as we continue with the broadcast right here. You can trust for more. Also speaking to one of the key agents down there, as they tell us their view and their expectations and preparation as respective parties. But then again, we go back to studio. I know Gloria is on standby and eagerly waiting to react, especially on the matter of Kimbaa. And also we have Ben Kinoth here on standby on the same. Lots of issues cropping up in regards to reports of malpractices, mischief, lots of conversations on voter bribery. Technically, what it is that we normally see on matters, elections or during elections. I'd love to hear your view, even as you continue to ponder on the last point that we had. And we have also seen the majority leader of the National Assembly, Amos Kimunya, getting also his fair share of bashing from the people on ground. I just don't know how open the ground should be for politicians to be, roving around at a point where quite emotive electioneering processes are being conducted.
That is what I was saying. As UDA, we have invested to actually train our agents, train even just the party members on what election management is, on what is expected if you're a voter, if you're an agent. And that's why, if for us, when I see Amos Kimunya there, I've asked myself, is he a voter? He's not a voter there. Is he an agent? He's actually not a cleared agent. Is he an IEBC official? He's not an IEBC official. Is he a designated security member of that polling station? He is not. So then, and these are now some of the things we even talk to our members. If you are not one of these things, why are you at the polling station? Because IEBC has been very clear that they do not want politicians to go to the polling stations. Even the super agents have been told not to be in the polling stations. So Amos Kimunya, Dennis Waweru, Sabina Chege, and Jude Njomo should leave the polling stations because they are not agents, they are not voters, they are not IEBC officials, they are not security personnel at the polling station, so they have no business at the polling station. Now, when you talk about voter bribery, voter intimidation, and all the other malpractices during elections, you will find that those things are not being conducted by agents or by IEBC officials. They're being conducted by people who are hovering around the polling stations and using their powers. For instance, Amos Kimunya is actually the majority leader. So why he wants to use his position to do what? To exert fear, to bribe. What is he doing at the polling station? So these are some of the things I'm glad that even the media is highlighting, because this is a joint affair. IEBC is trying as much as possible to actually keep the processes transparent. IEBC is trying to ensure that on their end they are actually holding their part as the Independent Electoral Commission. But the
presence of politicians or elected leaders, how does that then make the process not transparent in any way?
You see, the question is, what is a politician who's not a voter in that area doing in a polling station?
Okay.
Like if Amos Kimunya was asked, unafanya nini you are hovering in the polling station, what would be his answer? Because IEBC is taking care of the queues, so he has no business there. Mm-hmm. So IEBC is taking care of security, so he has no business to say that he wants to come and ensure that his votes are there. They, as Jubilee, have got agents who they have trained to ensure that they got their votes. So, and he is not an agent. So then the only thing that we can think about is if he's not conducting proper he's not there as an agent, he's not there as an IEBC official, yani yana kazi pale, then we start wondering, so are you there for voter suppression? Are you there to bribe? Are you there to intimidate the voters? Are you there to try and look at where the loopholes are? Which agents can you buy? What are you doing at the polling station?
Gloria, can you guarantee that before the day goes down, we'll not have a politician from UDA or a sympathizer of UDA, or any politician?
I can tell you for a fact that the UDA affiliated politicians have been sensitized, and we would like to show these other, what we would call mediocre parties, that we are serious as UDA in business. We are going to uphold what is required of us as a political party. We have already been told by IEBC that politicians should not be at the stations unless they are agents. And as I told you earlier, our 300 and something agents, some of them could have been elected leaders, but they are agents. So if you see them in the polling station, they are there in capacity as agents. So I can assure you, I can assure you that from UDA, you will not see such kind of nonsense today during the election.
Linda, you know, my friend here likes being very sentimental about things we should not be sentimental about. The people you are defending so hard are out there and they are living their lives. Don't be so sentimental.
We are passionate.
In siasa, unaambiwa weka kwa lungs.
We are passionate. It's not sentimental. We are passionate about our electoral processes. We are passionate. There's a difference. We are passionate.
Now, Linda, this is what I was coming to. First and foremost, I think in all fairness, it is not correct for politicians or people who have no business at the polling station being there, whether they are Jubilee affiliated or UDA affiliated. The first elections law that has been broken by UDA especially is that 24 hours before any election, there should be no campaigns going on. I mean, we saw the likes of Moses Kuria, hata wamelala Kiambaa na kwao si Kiambaa, and they've been campaigning overnight, and they've been obviously, even right now, I can tell you Moses Kuria is somewhere in Kiambaa. You know, those people are thinking, no, they are not false allegations. I mean, we saw him on TV yesterday. There was no electricity in her house, but we all saw them yesterday at night. They were in Kiambaa. Yes, now, what was I coming to?
Propaganda.
These people who are claiming and speaking so passionately about Amos Kimunya not being on the polling station because he's influencing by-election results are not telling us the truth that their people are on the ground probably giving money to people from their houses and telling them how to go and vote and to go out and vote. So they are in Kiambaa. What are they doing in Kiambaa?
They can be in Kiambaa, Linda, but they are not at the polling stations. They are clear. We have clear rules.
Gloria,
Linda,
I will not let you heckle me.
We have clear rules. You cannot be at the polling station unless you're an agent, unless you're an IBC official, unless you're security, unless you're a voter. So being in Kiambaa, the vicinity,
hold it, Ben. Yeah? Ben, I know I will allow you more time to talk about this. I can evidently tell that my panelists are taking sides, and I mean they are their preferred, of course, party or candidates that they would want to see sail through. Let's now loop in Evans Wafula, who was to be with us from the word go, but of course the technical hitches could not allow us. But I'm glad we've been able to get a hold of him. He joins us via Skype, that is virtually, just to give us a view of his feel on the matters Kiambaa constituency and this conversation of the fact that, well, if the Jubilee candidate then is able to garner this, it will be a plus for President Uhuru Kenyatta, who's probably not made his way to Kiambaa at any point in campaigns or, of course, campaigning for the candidate of Jubilee Party. Just how important is this election for him today?
I'd like to thank you, Linda, and I've seen Gloria again after a long time. I think what's important about this election, for me personally, I don't know where to place the victory of this particular election, knowing the fact that these are Jubilee people. I mean, none of them has left Jubilee. When you talk about UDA and you try to place this victory to either of the parties, I think whoever wins, from where I stand, I still believe that it's a Jubilee candidate, because that is the party that all of them have come from. I mean, it's an UDA is still Jubilee. And Gloria last time defended that position. She actually said that UDA is a constituency party of Jubilee. So I think Kiambaa people are being taken for a ride. I think the way these particular groups have been conducting themselves in Kiambaa, dividing people, I think our politics is getting, it's kind of bad manners politics. Because you cannot go to campaign and place a candidate like, for example, the UDA candidate, who we still know even the deputy president and the people campaigning there are still Jubilee. That's one thing. But the most critical thing is that the IEBC, which again I remember last time Linda and the anti-BBI crusaders saying that IBC is not properly constituted, so it cannot even conduct a referendum. But look here, it's conducting a by-election. So I think sometimes we need actually to re-examine ourselves and examine our politics. Because when we accuse the same body that cannot conduct an election because of the way it's been constituted, and yet we are actually celebrating to see it conducting another election. I think what's happening, the IBC is actually facing a serious litmus test as far as this particular election is conducted. I'm more interested to see how they will deliver a peaceful election and a credible election by extension,
All right, well, thank you so much for that. Wafula, there's so much that is taking center stage, and I believe that it is in the best interest of all of us to have to see this process, being fairly conducted until we're able to get who's going to be the next member of parliament of Kimbaa constituency. Coming back to you, Ben Kinovi, I distracted your line of thought, and make it brief so that Gloria can as well come in regards to what it is that continues to play out. This series of accusations on malpractice, on voter bribery, they have been there right from the time of campaign and up until today. Do you foresee a scenario where this could be a recipe of chaos today?
First and foremost, I wish and pray that we are not going to have chaos in Kimbaa because of two people who are not living in Kimbaa right now, and because of two parties that do not care about the Kimbaa voter other than their own glorifications and celebration and being able to brag. What these people are trying to buy here is bragging rights. And my appeal is to the people of Kimbaa. Remember, you have lived together as people of one community. You have lived together as brothers and sisters. Remember that you have been there before this UDA came, before that Jubilee came. And after these two funny parties leave you people, you will continue to be there. So I'm asking you, it's not about the red color or the yellow and green color or whatever color that comes to you. It's not about the wheelbarrow or whatever else the Jubilee manifesto is telling you. It's about Kimbaa. The minute you remove these people from the equation and think about Kimbaa as a voter, then you will be able to succeed. The problem we have right now is that because of money changing hands, because of politicians sparking emotions, because of the amount of attention that has been given to the voter has kind of forgotten what is important for them. And the voter needs to remember that Kimbaa is their business. Kimbaa is their home. Kimbaa is where they were born. Kimbaa is probably where they will be buried if they were to die today. And Kimbaa will continue to be home to their children and their grandchildren. When you think of that as the primary reason why you are going to vote, then UDA ceases to become anything, Jubilee ceases to become anything, and Kimbaa becomes the most important thing. And this is what I would request that every other person who is going to vote in Kimbaa today or who has voted today, I pray that you put Kimbaa before all these other shenanigans, and there will be peace.
I have lost Ben. I hope Gloria can hear me.
Yes,
and
I
Gloria,
can hear you.
We are focusing much on Kimbaa, but for a moment we're forgetting Muguga. Do you think then that our President Uhuru Kenyatta is likely to receive a shocker in the essence of the conversation or the argument that has been on ground? That the people are tired, they are kind of disappointed with the performance of Jubilee. And if it is to be a disappointment to President Uhuru Kenyatta, why should it be in favor of the Deputy President who equally sits in the Jubilee the Jubilee party, that is, and therefore if the ruling party has failed to deliver its mandate and the promises that it accorded to the people, I mean, he should be able to face the same brand.
I would like to first of all correct the co-panelist who was on Skype. I tend to forget his name. When he said that, yes, that, IEBC on one hand is doing a good job and so therefore they are ready for the general election. I mean, a by-election cannot be compared to a general election or a referendum. A by-election now, we are talking about a ward and about a constituency. But when you are going to conduct a general election, we all know we are talking about 290 constituencies where we are electing members of parliament, 47 governors, a presidential candidate, and 1,000 1,450 wards where we'll be electing members of county assemblies, all done concurrently. So it is wrong for him to say that on one hand we do not trust IEBC, yet we can see they are conducting good by-elections and so forth. Therefore, they are capable of conducting, the general election or a referendum. That in itself is a fallacy. Now, on to your question, Linda, when you're talking about what is happening with these by-elections and about the Jubilee, if they have failed, I would say this: Jubilee as a political party in itself, if you ask me, has not failed as a political party. What happened is the leader of that political party decided to actually ensure that their mandate is not going to be carried out. So people are not disappointed in Jubilee per se. You will note that the anger and this disappointment that Mount Kenya has is not towards Jubilee members. It is actually towards the party leader. It is towards Uhuru Kenyatta, because they are very much aware that it is Uhuru Kenyatta who actually ensured that we are not staying at course as Jubilee party. He is the one who went and shook hands with the leader of the opposition and completely derailed the whole political party manifesto. That is the reason why, as much as you would love to sell and fix William Ruto into the mess that is Jubilee, everyone within Jubilee political party and outside are aware that the failures of Jubilee are not the making of William Ruto. The failures of Jubilee are actually intentionally instigated by the party leader, Uhuru Kenyatta, and his proxies, Akina Morathe and co. So therefore, in Mount Kenya, the animosity is not towards William Ruto. In Mount Kenya, as you're seeing in Kimbaa and all these other by-elections, the animosity is towards Uhuru Kenyatta. And if Uhuru Kenyatta actually, as an individual, would actually just go, for instance, before, when we still had the campaigns in Kimbaa, if he would just go and sit with the people in Kimbaa and say, listen, I'm actually aware that you are angry at me. I am aware that I have failed you. How can I come through? So much, he would have. Do
you think that would have changed the events today?
Yes, because people in Kimbaa, people in Mount Kenya have got no grudge with William Ruto. It is not William Ruto who failed them. It is Uhuru Kenyatta.
Linda, this is.
I will come back to engage Wafula. And Wafula will tell us whether he is of the same view. Same applies to Ben Glory. Allow me to distract your line of thought and briefly again cross over to Kimbaa constituency, where we have our very own Mwangi Maina on standby. I had a session earlier on with the Kawanjiko of UDA, and of course gives us updates on the same Mwangi Maina.
The police officers are gabbing Kemunya. So at the end of the day, we are telling them, because they were given some brief yesterday by the returning officer, but we can see they did not take it. So we are just telling the IBC to put their foot down to ensure that this is not happening anywhere else. So whatever they are trying to do to intimidate people and trying to, this is it's a sensitive polling center. As you can see, we don't have building, so we are voting in tents. So whatever they want to cause chaos so that people don't come and vote, or probably the voting will not happen. They are trying to do what they can so that even the voting itself will not take place. Okay.
Well, overwhelmed, so they wouldn't speak much, but then again, those are the reactions of the UDA candidate, Kawanjiko, who seeks to garner this political position, that is a member of parliament of Kimbaa constituency, upon the demise of Paul Koinange, who passed on due to complications of COVID-19. But also Mwangi had a moment with Honorable Majority Leader of the National Assembly, Amos Kimunya, in regards to his, of course, appearance at this conversation, at this vicinity of Kimbaa, something that has hugely been condemned. And this is what he had to say. Mwangi, if you could please give us that.
Meeting with the IBC, the returning officers. He said no one will be given the badge as a member of parliament to be at any polling center. And that's why when you see me, I'm alone, because I also have members of parliament who are supporting me. But we all agreed, because we don't want to bring tensions in every polling center. We agreed that everyone and every member of parliament should remain in their polling centers. So what is happening, that is what is not understanding, they are now reversed, because all the members of parliament for the Jubilee Party, for the Jubilee parties, especially Kemunya, Wawero, Kabongo is also in Gasharage, so they are trying to intimidate voters and trying to look for ways to bribe and even to ensure that they cause chaos so that people don't come out and vote. But I want to tell the Kimbaa people, kindly, wherever you are, we are peaceful people, let's come and vote. After we vote, we are going to ensure that we also guard, because at the end of the day, this is not supposed to be happening. And the returning officer, actually, if you had the media briefing yesterday, he said no member of parliament should be allowed in any polling center. But we can see Kemunya here.
So we want as a badge with the Jubilee Party. He has a letter, he is accredited, but he says he does not have the badge for IEBC. Have you spoken to the returning officer or the presiding officers here and raised the issue with them?
So if he has not been given the badge as the badge by the IEBC, if he's an agent, he's supposed to be inside the polling center. So what is he doing outside the polling center and he's saying that he's an agent for the IEBC? So it doesn't make sense. So if he's an agent, he's supposed to be inside. If he's not, the only people who are allowed to roam around, it's only the chief agent and the candidates, no one else. And that's why I'm alone. All the other members of parliament, because we have members of parliament who support us, they are not here. So whatever you is trying,
police officers here, have you?
They are trying. The police officers are guarding Kemunya. So at the end of the day, we are telling them, because they were given some brief yesterday by the returning officer, but we can see they did not take it serious. So we are just telling the IBC to put their foot down to ensure that this is not happening anywhere else. So whatever they are trying to do to intimidate people and trying to, this is it's a sensitive polling center. As you can see, we don't have building, so we are voting in tents. So whatever they want to cause chaos so that people don't come and vote, or probably the voting will not happen. They are trying to do what they can so that even the voting itself will not take place.
Yes, we're still getting more reactions on the ground, and that one that Mwangi Maina had spoken to Amos Kemunya is one we're still looking at or looking for, and we'll definitely be giving you those reactions as we continue. And of course, that individual speaking right there is none other than Njuguna Kawanjiku, who is the aspirant of UDA that is down there at Kimbaa constituency. Coming back to my guest this morning, Wafula, your reactions as to what it is that Gloria speaks about. Do you suppose the people can genuinely say that they are disappointed by President Uhuru Kenyatta and not the larger Jubilee Party, and this has got nothing to do with the Deputy President William Ruto, who was elected alongside the President?
I think this particular election it's unique in its own way. There's no way you can divorce Deputy President from the President. I think they're the government in power until we conduct the 2022 election and elect a new president, and in any case a new deputy president. William Ruto is still the deputy president, and Jubilee is still the government that is in power. By extension, William Ruto is still part of the government. So whatever we are seeing in Kimbaa, and that's why I'm saying the people of Kimbaa have actually allowed themselves to be taken for a ride. I think these two political protagonists, I think it is like brothers of the same house and start fighting within their own house and trying to claim victory. I think what needs to have happened, and what I think need to be happening now in Kimbaa is that from what one of the panelists said, that the bigger and the most important thing here is that the people of Kimbaa should just remain peaceful, maintain peace, and ensure that whoever wins this election be shared. Because these are still, and I still maintain that the victory will be shared. I've seen Gloria really trying to explain that when the Electoral Commission, IEBC, is conducting just a by-election, is not the same as conducting the general election. Remember, the laws are very clear, is that if the body itself is not properly constituted, I'm not talking about the staff or the secretariat, but if it's not properly constituted, and that's one of the bases where even in many decisions, you've had decisions of the courts saying that if IBC is not properly constituted, then it means it cannot even conduct anything like a poll. So I think she needs to be clear to know that it is the same group that came out attacking the IBC, but now celebrating that it's going to conduct a free and fair election. For us on the other side, what we are praying and wishing is that let there be peace. What we know, the circus that Jubilee is now taking the Kimbaa people are into. This is just kind of political bad manners and madness. Because we cannot actually for sure say that this is a contest between William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta. And ensuring that whoever wins there will carry 2022. You see, these people are not campaigning for the interest of the people of Kimbaa. I think one of the panelists said that, and I want to emphasize that, is that it is a contest between Uhuru and DP. It's not in the interest of the people of Kimbaa. Because whoever is even being elected there is not going to be elected because there's anything he's going to do in terms of development or anything. It's just to prove a point that Ruto has roots in Central. That's what they want to prove.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and as earlier mentioned, lots of reactions are coming in regards to this. The voters, of course, you had seen earlier saying that they would want Kimunya ejected out of Kimuga polling station, that is Kimuga Cattle Dip polling station, while Kimunya claims that he is an agent at the polling station or at the polling center. He has a letter from the Jubilee Party, but says, or he does not have a badge from the IBC, and he says that IBC did not award them any badges. That is at the Kimuga Cattle Dip Center. And of course, a couple of 4 polling stations. UDA candidate Juguna Kawanjiko also there reacting earlier on, as you know, you had seen Mwangi Maina engaging him. And of course, more police officers making their way to Kimuga Cattle Dip polling station. And of course, contingent of police officers outside this particular center just to make sure that security is maintained. So we actually have again another clip that I had earlier mentioned in regards to the reactions of the majority leader of the National Assembly and also Kipiriri Member of Parliament, Honorable Amos Kimunya, at that point when the crowd was blazing down on him to exit this stage.
Or if you are an agent,
I'm an official agent.
Please tell us.
I'm an official agent accredited by Jubilee. Yeah? This is my letter.
All right.
Yeah? That's my oath.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you have a badge from the IEBC?
That's my letter, and I'm here. I'm here officially. Yeah.
All right. You are supposed to be an agent in this polling station.
Yes.
So from what time have you been here?
I've been here from 6.
All right. Yeah. Linda Alela, that is the majority leader, Honorable Amos Kimunya, saying he's an accredited agent by the IEBC. He has his own letter from the Jubilee Party. He's saying that he does not have an IEBC badge because there are no badges here for agents and for... So he's still waiting for the badge, and he will tell us what he is up to right now. So Amos Kimunya, the majority leader for National Assembly, saying he's here on official capacity as an official and as an agent of the Jubilee Party. He's saying he has a letter, but he does not have a badge from the IEBC. Linda Alela, that is what is happening here. We have spoken to the majority leader.
Right, well, interesting moments right there. Ben Kinodia, you have had the majority leader himself saying that he is justified to be there, a party or showing up. His letter from Jubilee Party and says that he sits there, as an agent, this in protecting the vote. And it's not the first time that this is happening, while we might want to condemn it anyway. Yes.
That we do have people who do not know how to manage things. I think it should have been incumbent upon Amos Kimunya to just call Kawanjiko and tell him, Kawanjiko, how are you? Come closer. Call the media. Tell them, you know what? I am here in my official capacity as a Jubilee accredited agent. This is my letter, nini. Is there a problem? I am standing outside the polling station. I am not interfering with the voters. I have not been seen to speak to anyone. I am not carrying any money on me. I am not dishing any money to anyone. What harm have I done at this polling station? So I think it's just an issue of how do you manage a crisis. When you sit on that side and tend to say, I'm okay, and the other one tends to think that you're not okay, it's something that they should have handled differently. But having said that, there is something I wish to say. This is a very unfortunate period for my president, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, because first, he's trying to finish his second term, and arguably I can say he has done a lot more after his handshake with Raila Amolo Odinga in terms of development for this country than he ever did during the first term, because first term it was all about corruption scandals, dams, and so much and so much. Every other headline was about people going to court, money being stolen. Jubilee never really achieved much in their first term. But he tends to put Ruto aside, he tends to join hands with Raila Amolo Odinga, and we see exponential development happening in this country. So if anybody is unhappy because Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta shook hands with Raila Amolo Odinga, they should be thinking about what have we achieved in the second term compared to the first term. And if you ask me, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta has achieved a lot more in the second term than he ever achieved in the first term. Finally, I must say that nature is very unfair, because at the time when the president needed people like the late Kimbaa MP around him, he loses him. And it's unfortunate that these by-elections are mostly happening in Mount Kenya region. I wish these by-elections did not happen in Mount Kenya region and they happened somewhere else. And I'm not wishing any person to die. But I'm saying, what if nature had not allowed for these by-elections to happen in Central Province? Would William Ruto have a chance to come and chest thump and try to prove that he has votes within Central Province, and so on and so forth? So it's just an unfortunate test for the president. He shall come through, he shall survive, he shall succeed. And yes, this noise will come to an end. And finally, the people of Kimbaa, please remember, whoever is elected as your MP moving forward, you will all share him. That will be your MP, mupende musipende. Kama atakuwa Jubilee, kama atakuwa UDA, huyo atakuwa wenyu. You will all share that MP. So you might as well, don't be so harsh on Kireri Njama, don't be so harsh on Kawanjiko. The person you're insulting so hard right now might be the person you'll knock their office in 3-4 weeks' time looking for bursaries. So whatever you do, whoever is going to be elected, wewe kama voter Kimbaa, in a week or 2 or 3, you'll be knocking at their door looking for bursary money. So be kind to the people who are vying,
Ben,
be polite and respectful. This is where you're heading. Yes?
Ben, allow me to interject and ask this. You speak hugely of why we should not condemn these individuals. But then another thing crops up, and we have constantly heard that, Kariri Njama is quite a good deal, would be a sure bet. It's not the first time he's going out to battle. In most cases, he has been number 2. And there's some level of confidence in the person of Kariri Njama. But the argument on ground is that it is, of course, the party that will pull him down. I mean, when do we get ourselves from this phase where we do not lose leaders that we think would be good, leaders that are selling their manifesto and they are ideologically objective, and of course get to a phase where we will elect them regardless of the party that they come with or in, or they stand in?
In response to that, I think it's simply because we don't learn. In 2002, we had NAC. NAC created such a huge wave But by 2007, NAC was not there. We were doing PNU, we were doing ODM. After 2007, again, PNU was dead. We had TNA. And after TNA again, by the time we were doing 2013, we had Jubilee. And now Jubilee looks like at some point is going to exit with the exit of the president because they have not yet given us a clear leader. And now it looks like we shall move to another party called either UDA or ODM or whatever it is that is going to be ahead there. If Kenyans were learning, from 2002 to now is close to 20 years, that parties have had a way of changing, but the monkeys in the parties have remained the same. These people are a constant. Ruto has been there since 1992. President Uhuru Kenyatta has been there for a very long time. Raila has been there for longer than most of them. And what we are not learning is that these people are taking us into parties and out of parties, into parties and out of parties, and we are following them. The day Kenyans will wake up and start looking at individuals and saying, no, wait a minute. For us as the people of Kimbaa, Kereri Njama is a better candidate than this Kwawanjiko who's not been tried and tested and known, who is not even voting there anyway. Yeah, we would have seen photos of him voting, but we know he's not voting there. So the thing is, if we start moving away from that mentality and learning that parties have changed, they have changed constantly, and they have not helped us in moving this country forward, people will start now electing a leader and not going with the wave. And I pray to God that these waves that are trying to be created will fail. UDA is trying to create a wave, and I hope that wave will not happen, because then what happens is horrible people attach themselves to the party that appears to have a wave, and they become elected because of the wave. If it is possible for 2022, kusikue na wave na isi happen, ikuwe watu wanachaguliwa on merit, we shall be a very happy country.
Linda?
All right, Gloria, yes.
Can I come in and say that, first of all, the Kimbaa by-elections are not about Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto. The Kimbaa by-elections are going to be about how we are now reorganizing political realignment, how we are actually looking into the political systems and the formations. And that is the reason why I'm very glad when I see whistleblowers, let me call them whistleblowers, following the transparency of our electoral process, actually going out and saying, hey, wait a minute, who is this guy? He's not an agent. He's not an IEBC official. He's not a security cleared personnel. What is he doing at the polling station? So these Kimbaa by-elections are mainly about how we are actually going to approach the 2022 general elections in terms of transparency, in terms of the processes of IEBC, accountability, and all of that. I would like to say categorically, if IEBC has sensitized the politicians and told the politicians that you have no business being in a polling station because we are trying to deal with these kind of heightened situations at the polling stations, which you know bring about violence, which you know bring about a lot of chaos. We saw what happened in the London by-election when MPs were kicking tear gas canisters that were being thrown at them. And so there is an understanding with the approach between IEBC and political parties that, hey, in order to cool down the temperatures at the polling station and allow for Wanjiku to actually go and vote without feeling intimidation, fear, or all of that, they had agreed as political parties, as elected leaders who are responsible to step aside. So when we see the likes of Amos Kimunya, when we see the likes of Dennis Waweru, Sabina Chege, and Jude Njomo, actually going to polling stations and they are not agents. Amos Kimunya has tried to say that he's an agent. He has come with a letter from Jubilee Party. As the majority leader of from that party, you can imagine this is something that an administrator can print very quickly for purposes of PR. If he has no badge from IEBC, if he has not been cleared by IEBC, what business does he have? Okay. He cannot come and claim he's an agent, and IEBC does not recognize him as an agent. And this is why, at the end of the day, what we are trying to deal with, you see the way BBI was coming to say that we are going to, do away with divisive politics, heightened, those kind of, why are these same people actually being the perpetrators of things that are going to cause chaos? And I'll say this to you, Linda. Okay. At the end of the day, when I say we, I'm talking about UDA political party. We do not want to see the militarization of by-elections. We do not want to see a huge amount of police force being now deployed, as now we are seeing, to a certain polling station, because that also creates fear for the voter to come in. They don't know what is happening. It looks like chaos. There's intimidation. We do not want to see what we saw in Juja. We do not want to see what we saw in Bonchari, where even the chiefs, as we are speaking now, the chiefs, and we want to ask CS Matiang'i, kindly, for the sake of the safety of these chiefs that you are using, we want you to take them out of the polling stations, because voting is not about using state machinery to try and influence the vote towards your preferred candidate.
Why would you assume that state machinery has been used for the same?
Because let me ask you. No, he spoke, so I will not allow him.
No,
let me ask you, if people are trying to say that the UDA and Jubilee is one and the same thing, how come it is Jubilee?
Gloria, you know, you've been there, you've been on set before, and you've told me the same thing confidently, that UDA is part and parcel of Jubilee.
Yes. Now, and that's why I'm posing this question, Linda. I want to pose this question categorically. How come the Deputy President William Ruto is not using chiefs, is not using police to go and intimidate voters, is not going to say that now we have seen Amos Kimunya, wacha na pia sisi hapo tukitoka Harambee au Sanex tufanye hivi toa au police. He's not using any kind of state machinery to go and influence the vote towards UDA. What we are seeing,
but members of parliament allied to
allow
him
me to finish this. What we are seeing the likes of Amos Kimunya. We are seeing the likes of those who are actually affiliated by Uhuru Kenyatta. We have not seen Moses Kuria in a polling station, and he has 100% his heart in the Kimbaa by-election. We've not seen him in the polling station. We have not seen any UDA affiliates.
Let's allow Evans to react to that. Let's allow Evans to react to that. Evans, I know you would want to weigh in your sentiments on that. Evans.
I think she's both in Jubilee and she's in UDA, and that's a fact you should actually accept. And one thing is that what the conduct of IEBC is critical. I said that in the beginning, and the way it will conduct this election is very, very important. I think seeing politicians in polls, in polling stations or polling centers, I think for me it's just like, as long as these people are not there to disrupt or to bribe or to participate in any sort of malpractice, I think they should also, they should be able to organize themselves in a manner that does not disrupt the electoral process itself. But I think chest thumping, what we have seen in the polling stations, I think people are trying to make themselves relevant where it's not necessary. I think people just need to go cast their votes, go, and whoever stays there, because I know people are always told that after you vote, you can still remain there to guard your vote. But I think these things should be done in a more organized manner. But looking at or listening to what Gloria is saying, that Jubilee or rather UDA is not one as far as Jubilee is concerned. This is one political party. It's the same people. They have been told to leave the party if they are not agreeing to what Jubilee stands for, and they have refused. Why? Because they know some of them might not even survive a by-election. So let's be realistic. These people, and we are not even sure how many of them will come back in 2022. I think half of them, almost all of them, have checkmates, political checkmates for 2022. So it's all a survival tactic. But seeing what is happening, again, I come back to just comment a bit, seeing what is happening this morning in Kimbaa, I think it's very important for us to know that, and my colleague has said there also, that the level of development that we have witnessed in this country within the second term of President Uhuru Kenyatta should not also be apportioned to him alone. I think the deputy president should also get credit, because it's one government. So I think whatever campaigns agenda or campaign programs they've been having, I think this is just the same two people done whatever Uhuru has done. Sometimes you will listen to the deputy president taking credit for what the government has done. Sometimes he will blast the president. So this is the level of political confusion that I've been talking about. I think we need to start being sincere in our politics and trying to have some kind of decorum in the way we conduct our politics going forward to 2022. Because the signs that we are seeing now, it might be very rough. I think 2022 might be very difficult for this country if we see politicians, in fact, politicians from the same political divide, trying to conduct themselves in a manner that can threaten even peace.
Say what? That's what they would say. IEBC, sorry, not IEBC, the Interior Minister, CS Fred Matiang'i has confirmed or has maintained that the government has set up all, of course, the machinery, all what is expected to make sure that as a people, as we go to an electioneering period, all is set in terms of security. Such has always been the case. That's always what we've been told. But you know, people have really wished to equate this to the scenario of what plays out in Kimbaa. And as Mwangi Maina has told that so much has been done in terms of making sure that there is security down on ground. Ben, as you come to react on that and generally what the other panelists have spoken about, Peter Simiyu was reacting to you. He says, it is democracy. Nobody is forcing. President was there in the first term. You mean he did not perform merely due to lack of the handshake or lack of Right Honorable Raila Odinga?
Okay, very quickly, I'll start by responding to that very quickly. You know, sometimes what happens, there are times when you can open a butchery, to put it in layman's language. You open a butchery, and all the time you've been losing money in the butchery, and you've been firing people and hiring others and firing and people. And then one day you wake up and realize that actually part of the money you've been losing in your butchery, it is your wife who was stealing. So do you fire your wife? Do you divorce your wife? Or what do you do with your wife? So it becomes very difficult. Sometimes what you do is you decide that your wife is not going to butchery again, or she's not going to be able to be allowed to handle money in that butchery. The president had a problem is because the simplest example I can give to Mwananchi is that you own a butchery together with your family, you worked together, you built a butchery, and you've been hiring and firing people because of money being lost in the butchery. And so then you discover that one of the persons who is actually stealing a lot of money in that butchery is your own wife. Then you don't know how to handle that. So I think that answers him very properly. Mm-hmm. Now, moving forward to what I was about to say about Kimbaa. How you react to seeing a policeman is directly proportional to who you are. If a person who loves peace and tranquility walks into a polling station and sees 20 GSU officers armed to the teeth, their perception is that we are protected, we are safe, we can vote, and nobody is going to harass us and intimidate us. That person will vote and go home. But for a perpetual chaotic person who brings chaos everywhere and likes shouting and making noise and being a vagabond, the minute they see 20 police officers, the first thing they feel is these people have come to intimidate us. They have not come to protect us. For a person who's been having problems with the chief all the time because he beats up his wife every other time, when they see the chief at a polling station, they think the chief has come to intimidate them. Because
what are you driving at, Ben?
No, well, this is what I'm driving at. The people in UDA have a problem with police being there. And they are saying that's what she just said here. No, ulikata nionge. So nyamaza, I'm talking.
That is not true.
The people, they have a problem with police there. And she's keeping saying that she doesn't want to see the chief there, that the police there are there to intimidate. Let me ask you. When the police are there, are they asking you when you are Jubilee or when you are UDA? They don't even know how the Jubilee voter looks like or how the UDA voter looks like. All these are people from Kimbaa constituency. The bulk of them, unfortunately or fortunately, because of demographics, are Kikuyus, so they are speaking the same language. So the policeman cannot come to intimidate UDA voters as she's trying to purport, because the policeman cannot come and ask you, where umevotia Jubilee ama UDA, so that he knows how to handle you. So please stop making it appear like Matiang'i and the chiefs and the police are there to intimidate UDA voters, because UDA voters do not have a mark on their forehead, so the police are not able to differentiate between UDA voters and Jubilee voters. They are just there to maintain peace, order, and tranquility.
Linda, I want to say, Linda,
no, you have to make it brief because we're closing.
Yeah, I'll make it brief. Allow me to say this.
You have to make it 1 minute.
Yes. It's unfortunate that this is a degree holder speaking like this. I will tell you that I'm fortunate enough to have been working in the NGO industry, and I can tell you the cases of police brutality in this particular constituency, Kimbaa, are very high. So when he talks about that when you see a police, how you respond to them is actually directly proportional to who you are, that is not true.
It is true.
So many so many residents of Kimbaa, through one way or another, have encountered police brutality, and they live with this kind of situations and stigma and, you know, triggers. So for them, and I've just seen a clip right now that is circulating the social media where they have deployed serious numbers of police to go into the polling stations. If you go to IEBC and actually ask them to sensitize you on election management and things like that, they themselves, as an independent electoral commission, will say the one thing that they try as much as possible as they're dealing with stakeholders is to ensure that there is no what we call voter suppression. How do you do voter suppression? By either instigating cases of violence just close to the polling station, so therefore people are afraid to go to the polling station, or simply by deploying thousands of military personnel, of police personnel, because there is an intimidation whereby if I see over 300 police officers at a polling station, as a law-abiding citizen, I know for a fact that I do not want to be in a scenario where there could be potential shootouts. So at the end of the day, it is not about UDA appearing to fear the police. It is about that Wanjiku that is on the ground. It is about the incidences that they have had to deal with in terms of police brutality. It is about how the police force has actually been seen for a very long time with Kenyans. So you cannot say that these things do not exist. They exist, and this is what we are calling voter suppression. So we are kindly asking Matiang'i, CS Matiang'i.
Gloria, we have to close.
Yes, we are asking him, for purposes of peace, for purposes of having clear and transparent procedures of this Kimbaa by-election, you know, do not militarize this by-election. Do not do that. That is what they're doing. They're militarizing it.
There have always been complaints that even with examinations, we'll always have, you know, the military standing behind the students.
These guys don't want police there so that they can bring chaos.
Fear.
The police are protecting the ballots.
All right, Wafula, close.
These people don't want to see police there because they have plans.
We have to be policed around.
Yes, we have every polling station has actually been given security.
Wafula has to come in, Gloria, because in the best interest of time, Wafula kindly come in and react to the same. Do we have to be policed, militarized every other moment for us to maintain law and order, for us to make sure that the vote is protected? And I mean, what then is the role of the IEBC? Does it have to have police around to make sure that these votes are guarded?
I think militarization of the electoral process is unacceptable anywhere in the world, and I think elections, the way they are conducted, should be seen free, fair, and I believe that we have some, of course, election observers who are there. They might say at the end of the day what actually transpired. But having said that, I think we conduct our elections in an environment that is a bit unstable. I think the kind of rhetoric we've been hearing, especially within these two camps, then calls for proper mechanism in terms of security to be put in place. You see, people don't want to feel intimidated by not only the police presence, but also by politicians who probably have other motives. Like we know the presence of UDA politicians who actually, some of them slept in hotels or lodgings in Kimbaa. So it's for them just to be in the polling station there today. We don't know their motives. We don't know those who walk around with money in their cars. We don't know. So it's still very early in the day to even conclude that by the time they are closing the polls, maybe something funny might happen. And I will tell you that anywhere, I'm sorry to say this, that anywhere Moses Kuria is not a place that is a joke. I think he knows how to mobilize goons, and he knows how to mobilize goons not for the interest of peace. So we have to also ensure that the police presence should be there to ensure that people feel safe when they are going to the polling stations. So we have to just accept it that this is how we behave in our elections, and we have behaved that before. We will behave again like this now, and that is what I think in 2022 Kenyans do not go to. And I think we need to change how we conduct our elections. We need to adapt even the models that we see in other democracies, that you can vote from your house, even through the post office, so that we don't have to be running into polling stations and causing chaos the way we are trying to see.
And true to it, at least then we've seen Moses Kuria, warning these people to maintain law and order. Right behind him was police boss Hilary Mutyambai, as he told them, do not go out there and take stuff like, bang and misbehave, because then when you call him, so that at least you would be bailed out, or he will bail you out, he will be nowhere to be found. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's only fair that then we close it at that. This is Morning Cafe. We've had an extension of about 30 minutes as we view the events of Kimbaa by-elections and Muguga by-elections. There's pretty much not much of activity down there, that is at Muguga, hence the reason why maybe my panelists have decided to, not weigh in much on this matter, but Grace Josephine is there to compile, a comprehensive report on what is taking center stage there. Of course, once in a while, we'll be going there to make sure that she keeps us up to speed. Mwangi Maina on the other side of Kimbaa, where, of course, he follows up on these events to make sure that we also are able to enlighten you on the same. Gloria Oruoba, asante sana for your time this morning. I think it's only fair that I say kwaheri, and I'm sorry that I chewed into your time without having to ask for permission. Gloria Oruoba is a youth policy analyst and equally a political aspirant. Ivan Swafula, who's joined us via Skype, political analyst. Asante sana for the great insights. And lastly, Ben Kinuthia, equally a political analyst and legal expert. Asante sana for the great insights. Let's watch and see what then plays out in regards to the Kimbaa by-elections. On standby is my colleague Musa Salah. On the other side, that is the Nairobi studios, to make sure then that he takes you through the process from where it is that I left it. Remember, it is a long day process, and therefore it is good that we constantly, go to that part to get more details of the same. And therefore, on this point, I say asante sana for keeping me company. From our Pani studios, I get to see you again tomorrow. My name is Linda Alela. Musa Salah, take it up.
So much, Linda Alela, for that show particular. And of course, it is indeed quite a big day for the residents of Muguga Ward as well as Kimbaa constituency, as they exercise their democratic right to elect their representatives in both the National Assembly as well as the County Assembly in today's by-election. And of course, we are working around the clock to make sure that you receive the latest in regards to that mini poll. And of course, we have our team of dedicated reporters in those particular areas to ensure that you receive the latest from those areas. And of course, we'll be linking up with our very own Mwangi Maina, who is in Kimbaa constituency, as well as our very own Grace Josephine, who is also in Muguga Ward. Of course, remember that earlier on in the morning, there was a scuffle in Kimuga polling station, of course, in Kimbaa constituency, involving National Assembly Majority Leader Amos Kimunya. And of course, the residents there, of course, the voters there were trying to evict Kimunya from that particular polling station. We'll be linking up with our very own Mwangi Maina in a moment. And of course, remember that IEBC selection interviews, that is to fill the 4 vacant positions at the IEBC, is still ongoing, and is that particular interview enters day 7 of the interviews today involving Justus Abonyo as well as Justus Maithia. Those are 2 namesakes right there. And of course, Kagwiri and Mbogosi, 13 candidates, or rather shortlisted candidates, are yet to face the 7-member panel. And of course, remember, 36 were shortlisted and 1 was disqualified for allegedly forging his academic degree certificate. And of course, and so leaving 35 in that race. Of course, remember that the Sharon Otieno murder case is still ongoing, and of course, it is the last day for that particular hearing. Remember that yesterday, that case, the court was told by the government analyst that Migori Governor Okoth Obado is the father, or rather the biological father of Sharon's baby. Remember that the court in the previous day was told that Sharon was stabbed 7 times, and of course her unborn baby died of one of those stabbings on her stomach. And of course 35 witnesses are in that particular case, and of course the court, including the prosecution and of course the defendants, agreed to present 2 per day. And of course Okoth Obado was charged alongside 2 others, and who are the main suspects in this particular case. And of course, as I said earlier on, our very own Grace Josephine is in Moguga ward just to tell us what will be happening in that particular ward that is in Kabete constituency. And of course, that particular vacancy came up following the death of MCA Eliud Ngugi, who died on the 16th of March this year. And of course, it is indeed a 2-horse race in that particular race, involving UDA's Kamau Thumbi and of course Jubilee's Joseph Githinji. And you may wonder why the Moguga ward and of course Kiambaa constituency by-election is a do or die for President Uhuru Kenyatta. Remember that in Juja by-election, the recently concluded Juja by-elections, Jubilee's Susan Waititu lost to Moses Kuria's PEP candidate George Koimburi. And of course Jubilee Party, the ruling Jubilee Party, also lost to Peter Thinji, Jubilee candidate in that particular race. Ruria ward, of course, lost to Francis Muraya of UDA. And of course, that will what will be the result of these particular 2 by-elections will determine the fate of Mount Kenya politics. And of course, we'll be working around the clock to bring you the latest in what will be happening in those particular constituency, and of course ward Kiambaa constituency and Moguga ward. And of course, we are now crossing over to Kiambaa constituency, where our very own Mwangi Maina is on standby. Mwangi, good morning. I hear there was a scuffle in Kimuga polling station earlier this morning involving National Assembly Majority Leader Amos Kimonya. Tell us about that, Mwangi.
Thank you so much, Musa Sala. We are coming to you live from Kemoga Kato Deep Polling Center. We are having 4 polling stations in this center, and some few minutes ago, we have witnessed some fracas here. Voters who are claiming to be UDA supporters have stormed this polling station, wanting to eject the majority leader for National Assembly, Amos Kimonya, saying that he is interfering with the polls. He has been here for almost an hour. We have seen a contingent of police officers who have been brought to this particular polling center. But right now, the situation is cool. Everything is calm. Police officers have left, and the only police officers, if you are able to see, they are only the police officers who are manning this polling center. So the situation is good. Voters are voting. Voters are coming. They are voting as they are expected to do, and everything is flowing on very well. Remember yesterday, the returning officer, Mr. Peter Muigai of Kiambaa constituency, said that only voters and agents of candidates will be allowed into the polling station and into the main tallying center at Karori High School. So he said that super agents in the name of MPs and senators will not be allowed to, they will not be granted entry into any polling station or any polling center. Earlier when we were speaking with the majority leader, Honorable Amos Kimonya, he told us that he has a letter from the Jubilee Party. He is an agent at this particular polling station, and he's still here doing what he is supposed to do. So, Salah, we are having a spot check on different polling stations. From here, we will proceed to Gashie Primary School, where Jubilee candidate Kareri Njama Karanja is expected to cast his vote at around 10 a.m. So we'll be there, and we will be bringing you live updates from here. So right now, we can see residents of this area of this Kemoga Kato Deep Center, they are still streaming in to vote. So right now the situation is okay. Calm has been restored. The youth who are causing chaos have left, and everything is continuing as planned. So Musa Sala, that is the brief from Kemoga polling center here in Karori ward. Back to you in studio.
Well, Mwangi Maina, before I let you go, Mwangi, of course, you were there last evening. You've been you've been there this morning, and of course, we cannot get Mwangi Maina, and we'll get back to him later on in this special broadcast, of course, focusing on the two by-elections, Kimbaa constituency as well as Muguga ward. That is, of course, has proven a do-or-die race for the ruling Jubilee Party and Deputy President William Ruto's UDA, and of course, involving in that particular constituency, Jubilee's Kariri Njama as well as UDA's Njuguna Wanjiku. There was Mwangi Maina telling us about that scuffle involving National Assembly Majority Leader Amos Kimunya in Kimuga polling station. And of course, remember that the outcome of this particular by-election, that is in Kimbaa constituency as well as Muguga ward, will determine the fate of, or rather, what course the Mount Kenya politics will take towards the 2022 general election. Remember that Moses Kuria's PEP candidate in the Juja by-election won against Jubilee's Susan Waitito, and of course, Jubilee suffered another blow in Ruria ward, of course, losing to Francis Morai of UDA, and where Peter Thinji, of course, Jubilee's Peter Thinji suffered a defeat to Francis Morai. Of course, in this broadcast, we'll also be taking a look at what will be happening in Muguga ward, that is in Kabete constituency. The seat fell vacant following the death of Eliud Ngugi, who died on March the 16th this year. And of course, the campaigns for that particular mini poll ended on Monday, and of course, where the candidates, UDA's, of course, Kamau Thumbi and Jubilee's Joseph Githinji, of course, wrapped up their campaigns in that particular ward. And of course, in this broadcast, we'll also be taking a look at some of other cases going on, of course, involving Migori Governor Okoth Obado, who has been accused of the gruesome murder of Sharon Otieno, who the court established about 2 days ago that she was stabbed 7 times. And of course, her unborn baby also died in that particular murder. That is 2 accounts of murder. Of course, the court had also established that Sharon was stabbed 7 times. And so the governor, Okoth Obado, will be as today appearing for the last day in that particular hearing. Remember that yesterday the court had been told by the government analyst that Okoth Obado is indeed the biological father of Sharon's unborn child. And of course, earlier on, before the case began, the court had settled on 35 witnesses to be presented in the court, of course, to give their accounts of that particular murder. And of course, the court had agreed to present 2 witnesses per day. And so Okoth Obado will be appearing in Milimani Law Courts later. Actually, the case is ongoing as we speak. We'll be getting to that later on in this broadcast. And of course, we're also keeping an eye on the IEBC selection interviews, of course, to fill the 4 vacant positions at the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC. Remember that 36 candidates were shortlisted in that particular application. And of course, 1 was disqualified for allegedly forging his academic certificate, and so leaving 35 in that particular race. And of course, 13 candidates are yet to face the 7-member selection panel. And of course, today, Justice Abonyo, that is 2 namesake, Justice Abonyo and Justice Maithia, will be appearing alongside Kagwiri and Mbogosi for those interviews. And so we have a lot for you in this special coverage of the mini polls, of course, in Muguga ward and Kimbaa constituency. As I said earlier on, the results of these particular mini polls will determine the course of the Kenyan politics, or rather will shape the landscape of the Kenyan politics ahead of the 2022 elections. And of course, in those 2 mini polls, there are 2 candidates, or rather it is a 2-horse race in those 2 particular mini polls. And of course, we'll be taking a look at those 2. But now let's head over to KICC, where the interviews for the IEBC commissioner positions is taking place. Let's listen in.
There's going to be more conflict. So we did organize for consultations, and we were given an expanded mandate to also look at the issues that were also difficult of Abia, Nuba Mountains, and Southern Blue Nile, that were bringing other issues that were difficult to deal with. And we therefore contributed our report to the IGAD group that was negotiating peace. I'm happy to say that although the demands of these 12 political parties were not met in full, but we were happy that they were invited to be. This then gave the impetus of peace to be signed in Kenya between the South Sudan and Umapati. Moving to other things, the one that was dealing with refugees. And when I left, after 6 months, the organization came back to me and said, Justus, we are happy that you worked with us for about 8-9 years. We'd like to give you some money to go and do your master's in the UK, in London. And I went back. In fact, I needed to have mentioned that after my diploma in Kagumo, this particular organization sponsored me to do another diploma in education in the University of London. And after I came back, I worked with them. Then I left them, I resigned. And after 6 months, they came and gave me an opportunity and a full scholarship to study masters in education at the University of London. Maybe I did something good. I have been very passionate about what I do. And somebody once said that there's nothing great that was ever achieved without passion and enthusiasm. So I thank God that they saw something valuable that I did, and they came and gave me that scholarship. I'd never seen any employer that follow up the employee that have already left and give them a lot of money for personal gratification of that nature that I did. I then, moving quickly to other things, as part of the last conversation that I'm going to have on this, is I was given a chance to start and establish Amnesty International in this country. And I did establish Amnesty in this country. While I was working for Amnesty International, the organization saw leadership qualities and other characters like lobbying and peace and conflict transformation and diplomacy. And the organization at the international level asked me several times to be part of a team that worked out or lobbied the international community on certain important issues that Amnesty International was involved in. One of those was the campaign around Arms Trade Treaty. Arms Trade Treaty had been considered as one of the treaties that had not been signed, but aspects of conventional arms that the organization and the member states were conventional weapons that had never been seen in this country, in Kenya, in Africa, in South America. As part of the delegation of Amnesty International to the UN member states that were meeting from 2012 to 2014 in New York, we agreed that we needed to bring in small arms and light weapons, ammunition, munitions, and transfer of technology as part of what we needed to see as part of arms trade treaty. Because in some of the countries that I've mentioned, globally, people were dying. One person will be dying after every 3 minutes as a consequence of small arms and light weapons. That was big. And I'm happy to say that we did make a strong statement and lobbied the member states, and some of them that needed education and information to be able to project our voices had us, and in 2014 we did have a treaty. At the tail end of the Obama administration, Chair, the organization again asked me to go and have a conversation. We were 5 of us that were picked very carefully from all over the world to go to the US, Washington and New York, to speak to the senior members of the Obama administration, to convey to America that with the refugee global crisis, it was a crisis that was extremely destructive, and huge amounts or number of people were destroyed as a result of refugees that were running away again through Red Sea, getting stuck and dying. And I'm happy to say, Chair, that we did, our messages were heard and acted upon by the leadership of the US government, and they conveyed this statement to members, the UN member states, and money was committed to address the refugee global system. As part of Amnesty International, I did make very strong progress, advancement, and growth of the organization that gave birth to regional offices in Africa, and one was established in Nairobi. This is me doing what I needed to do for the sake of humanity. I considered it a job, a service that any payment could not equal, because my gratification and joy is based on the dignity of the human person. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you so much, Justice. If you'll allow me just to ask a couple of questions. One is maybe if you could just explain, we do have your master's degree certificate, the one you talked about. We were wondering if you ever did an undergraduate degree, or maybe just to explain the progression from the diploma to the master's degree.
Yes, my university, the University of London, when they admitted me to do another diploma in the university, they considered the diploma that I had acquired in Kagumo Teachers College. And when I did the second diploma, the university, in fact, had indicated that they would like to admit me for the master's degree program. But because I did not join immediately, they still held it. That the 2 years that I did in Kagumo and the 1 year that I did in the University of London qualified me to study to pursue a master's degree in the same area.
Thank you so much. Justice, are you a registered voter?
Yes, I am a registered voter, and previously I was voting in Karen South Sea, but then I transferred my vote in 2017 to Hotel Primary School in Kabondo Kasipul constituency, Homa Bay County.
Thank you so much, Justice. I'll now request Mr. Morris Kimuli to ask you a few questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Justice, you indicate that you were involved in the peace process in Sudan, and you say that you led the team. Is that correct?
Professor Washington Jalango led the team, and I worked with him closely as part of the team that was working on the issues of conflict.
I'm looking, sir, at your application. You say on governance and negotiations, you say, as the head of Inter-Sudanese Consultations on Peace and Justice Secretariat. What does that mean?
I was the head. I was the chief executive officer of Inter-Sudanese Consultation on Peace and Justice.
But you say then you are not the head of the peace negotiation mission. You are head of the secretariat.
Head of secretariat then will sit with the negotiator because I was invited majorly also for that, based on the work that I was doing on the issues of peace in the Karamajong cluster. That is the reason that, in fact, attracted a professor to invite me to work with him on that.
Just as in a manner of just asking for knowledge, your involvement with the ABA dispute in Sudan, was it before or after the decision of the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague?
No. It was particularly before, because we were dealing with issues that were emerging from ABA.
I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
Yeah.
Now, with your involvement in matters of refugees, and I have listened to your background, quite impressive, with your involvement with matters of conflict and refugees, if you draw a parallel with the situation in Kenya, you know since 1992 we have had instances of disputed elections. We have had instances where people have been internally displaced, sometimes leaving what they call home and going far away to live in shelters for internally displaced persons. What would you say is the legal framework that would permit IEBC to allow internally displaced persons the right to vote, considering that those people may have been uprooted from the place they call home, and from the people they recognize as leaders, and the cultural ties? What would you say?
I would say that refugees, internally displaced people, they have rights, particularly those that are displaced in country. Although they have run away from their homes, displaced, unfortunately, but they still enjoy the right to vote. And they still enjoy the right to choose people that they want to lead them.
Now, I'm looking at the practical aspect of what policy and what law ought to apply. Imagine a situation where you are born in one area, you are entitled to vote for your MCA, you are entitled to vote for your member of parliament, and as a result of election violence, you are uprooted from the people you know where the instruments of your existence are, and you are taken far away, perhaps among us people who do not even speak your language. Will you then say that that right is being exercised properly if I'm compelled to vote for an MCA I do not know, and therefore I cannot vet them, to vote for a member of parliament I do not know, because the camp for the internally displaced persons happens just to be within that constituency? What would you say?
It's not fair at all.
What do you think would be the policy? You, assuming you are an IEBC commissioner, and these people have a right to vote under our constitution, and the right to vote entails you choosing leaders that you like, and leaders who will perpetuate policy that favors you and is in accord with your aspirations.
I will still propose, and very strongly so, that the registration and the transfer of votes, or voters, could be still given to people that are displaced. Because if they are displaced, they don't know anybody or leaders or people that they need to vote, but they can be given the opportunity to transfer the vote to where they would like to vote, or where they know the people that they need to vote for. So I think the IEBC needs to explore ways and means of making it easy for them to express their right to vote.
You are here, and I asked you to assume that you are a member of the commission. So you say there is need for policy towards that direction. Do you know what happened with the internally displaced persons when it came to the time of voting in the last election? Do you have an idea?
Yes, I do have an idea. It was a very sorry situation.
Did they vote?
A lot of them did not vote, because I think they also felt very strongly that the leadership did not in any way sensitive to what happened to them.
Thank you. I just have a couple more questions for you, and my questions are just intended to examine your general understanding of the law, because I know you're not a lawyer.
No, I'm not.
But when in your case study, a question was raised about a situation where political parties threatened to boycott an election. Now, just briefly, do you know how political parties are regulated in this country?
Yes, I do.
Yes, please answer.
The political parties are regulated by the registrar of political parties. And that is where they find organization that will be dealing with their issue.
They are registered with the Register of Political Parties. They are regulated under the Political Parties Act. Now, the Political Parties Act says that one of the obligations of political parties, the code, is they have to respect, uphold, and defend the Constitution of Kenya. When you look at that obligation on political parties, do you think political parties have a right to call for a boycott of elections?
Yes, they do have a right to call for a boycott of election if they feel very strongly that the process of election is not going to give them a fair environment and equal environment within which to realize the desires that they have. And that is a right that you can actually boycott. But
is there, according to you, an alternative legal mechanism of getting IEBC to do what it must do rather than asking people to boycott elections?
Absolutely there is, where the tribunal of the political parties have given them a framework. They can actually go through that alternative. Can we work out this before we take the high road of boycotting an election, which is giving people the opportunity to express themselves, but to also elect their own leadership?
So for you, your belief is that if there is an alternative to a boycott of elections, it ought to be explored in priority.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, fine, I get you. Just a question on technology. You understand that our law requires IEBC to implement technology? What, in broad terms, what kind of technology is supposed to be implemented by IEBC for the purposes of elections?
Yes, I do understand about technology, and I think the world right now and in future will majorly be dependent on technology to do a lot of things for us. And I think it is high time that IEBC did employ the use of technology, but also to change technology with the context that it finds itself. And so for me, technology that IEBC is currently following or implementing is based on the fact that we need accuracy and we need convenience in the way that efficiency and technology that brings results that are accountable. We have been struggling with issues of vote counting.
I don't want to cut you short, but what I'm saying is this. That technology, the law says that it has to be inclusive. It has to take care of all citizens, including people living with disabilities. Just a quick question. Do you foresee a situation where we shall use mobile technology in voting?
Yes, I can see that we will use mobile technology
in
voting, but also even go further to use.
Yeah, that's okay. I get you, because the chair is about to kick me out of this. I just want to confirm.
But I've not said what I wanted to say.
Let me just guide you so that you can. Okay. So if we use mobile technology or an advanced level of mobile technology, do you think it will include the elderly? Because the requirement is that technology ought to be inclusive. Do you think it will include the elderly? And do you think it will also include the illiterate? You know how mobile technology works. You need an advanced gadget. You need to be able to read and write. You need to be able to be well informed. Do you think if we go the mobile way, it will be inclusive?
I think not necessarily entirely, because there are some people that will still be very intimidated by technology, by the use of technology. So maybe that might not necessarily be 100% inclusive.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and all the best. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kimuli. I'll now request Dr. F.S. Abdallah to ask you a couple of questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Nyagaya, first and foremost, congratulations on the good job on humanity.
Thank you, sir.
My PhD is in humanity, so I feel proud.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Mr. Nyagaya, the foundation to governance is the action of the individual. Foundation to governance is the action of the individual. These actions are guided by a person's personal moral stance, right? In reference to that statement which I've made, please elaborate the characteristic, according to your well-versed experience, that are important in development of one's personal moral stance. Are we together?
Yes, we are.
Please do.
Yes, I'm glad that you have said that it is based on an individual, because the sum total of individual is a whole population. And if we do have moral standards, ethics, values that brings dignity to humanity, I think it needs to start with the individual. And I want to give an example of what I heard recently about the Japanese. They bring up their children to dignify people with the way that they speak and what they do. And because a culture has been formed around around values, children will not forget. They will use it and pass it to the next generation. And it becomes a culture of respect, a culture of dignity, a culture of values. So I think that it is important that this is moved forward.
Thank you, Mr. Nagai. The Japanese culture is actually in participation, consensus-oriented, accountability, transparency, and responsibility.
Yes.
Which I think some of us, unfortunately, in short, is the upbringing, and the culture is very important to one's moral stance. Are we in agreement?
Say that again.
I'm saying the upbringing and personal upbringing and moral obligation towards what you do is very necessary on a personal basis.
It is absolutely necessary.
We don't learn these things normally from universities.
No, they don't.
Thank you. Mr. Nagaya, please tell this panel your opinion as to what external factors are affecting the operation of the Commission and how you will deal with them if you become one of the commissioners.
Yes.
I see you smiling. I think you're waiting for this, isn't it? Please.
Yes. Some of the external factors will be the interference by the political class. The IBC is carrying out a very powerful or an exercise that embodies the acquisition of power. And obviously, if not checked very well, the interference will be from those that are holding power already. And as far as I'm concerned, if I am part of the system of IEBC, I will flag that up. And my own stance and the stance of my colleague will be that we have to be impartial, we have to be very professional, and we have to be accountable to the people that we are working for. We have to do things that when people out there see us do them, then they will say that indeed, even if there are external influences, there is a rule of law that the IEBC is following. There is a rule of law. There is independence. And that is the image that we project. So even if we don't go on to the rooftop and say that that's what we are doing, what people will see us do, they will believe that indeed we are doing the right thing. Because obviously we will be very naive to think that external challenges and interferences will not be coming, will not be affecting IEBC. So we need to come up with strategies that ensures that we are impartial, we are neutral, we are strong, we are independent in the way that we are doing things and within the law.
Thank you, Mr. Ngaya. What I understand from your statement is, in your opinion, it is the political parties and the politicians who are the only external force whose is an issue to the IEBC or smooth operations.
Now, I just gave one example. It is really not just the politicians alone.
We want to use your experience, Mr. Ngaya, and I appreciate your calculative words. We want to learn from your experience and see whether you do possess the courage and determination from your previous experience. Because, of course, we all know that, we've seen it, that yes, political parties, politicians, the current powers be are the ones who could be inflating the IEBC operations. So we are saying, yes, here you are with this international experience and the determination to serve humanity. What would you do?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, I will be very deliberate.
Thank you.
In dealing with issues of corruption, for example, and we have to have fidelity to the law, and issues of corruption will be there. It is all over the place. But as an institution that is giving service to the people, how are we then dealing with the issue that might actually mar the image of the organization? We will definitely show our people that we are dealing with that. And I think the third bit will be the way that we work as a team. Because if we don't work as a team, it's very easy for us to be divided along maybe ethnic.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Younger. The last one.
Yeah.
What proposal do you have to improve the image of IEBC and inspire the confidence and trust in the citizens? One thing, yes, you have the IEBC, and of course you are coming into a team maybe for no reason of yours or whoever is there now, that the image is really dented, what would you do to bring that confidence back?
In the way that we carry out our operations, we have to be deliberate in the way that we, for example, if we are doing voter registration, everybody should be registered. If they themselves have ID cards, they will register. But I think the major bit that we must actually deal with is work on our institutional framework.
Thank you. I think the word is very familiar. It's transparency.
Transparency.
You're very well conversed with that. Thank you very much, and all the best.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Abdallah. I'll now request Mr. Gideon Solonka to ask his questions.
Yes, Mr. Nyangaya, you said that you are the chair of SDP.
Yes, I was chair of Social Democratic Party of Kenya.
Who is the current chair?
In 2002, we actually moved into a merger with DP and with that's Democratic Party of Kenya.
So does it still exist?
I think it exists in another form, but as far as we are concerned, we actually stopped SDP from existing because we had moved into a merger to go into the National Rainbow Coalition.
Okay. And did it have any parliamentarians at any one given time?
Yes, we did actually have about 18 parliamentarians, and I am very proud to say that that was a big first attempt when we fielded Honorable Charity Ngilu as a presidential candidate.
Okay, thank you. Now, in your CV, I have seen that you've also involved in monitoring of elections.
Yes, I am. I have. And I have also been part of a team that monitored census, which is also almost with the same passion as elections.
Thank you. You understand that election observation is fundamentally an exercise in support of democracy, and that observers serve as impartial watchdogs who can assess whether the results of an election truly reflects the will of the people.
Yes.
Now, is election observation anchored in our constitution?
Yes, it is. It is anchored in our constitution. It's encouraged. IEBC, in fact, is encouraged to consider that particular class of people as stakeholders that work with them.
It is encouraged, or is it a constitutional command that we must have elections observers?
Actually, it is a constitutional command.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, who qualifies to be accredited as an election observer under our laws?
Anybody above the age of 18 is encouraged, or rather allowed to be an observer, election observer.
So anybody can be an election observer?
People who are professional and they know what they're doing, especially with regards to exercise of election, because IBC will be relying on them to give a report on the nature of elections and the process.
Okay.
So it is really people that have a certain amount of knowledge on the processes of election.
Okay, I would like you to specifically address us on 3 things that the law allows an accredited observer as pertains elections.
The first one is the law allows them to be part, to have accreditation from IBC to be part of the observer group. And the other thing is that the law requires that they become people of integrity, that whatever they say will be not necessarily something to malign the process.
Here, I think you're addressing yourself on virtues. I'm saying, like, for example, on an election date.
Yes.
What can an election observer do?
They will be allowed to go into the polling stations, but they will not be allowed to speak to anybody.
Okay.
Yes. And they cannot in any way align themselves openly.
So what will they do? What will they be doing at the polling station?
They will be watching how the counting is done without necessarily making any comment, but they will actually be present to watch how the process is being run. Is it as the IBC had indicated it to be run, or it is, or are there certain processes that they jump? But they will be watching.
What about as regards the votes cast in an election? Any role?
They will only be watching, but they cannot in any way offer any explanation, question, or whatever. They themselves will actually be mum and not say anything.
Okay,
or do anything with any political party.
You may need to look at the elections regulations, general regulations. You'll see the specific things that they can do. And are there any guidelines for elections observers in Kenya?
Yes, there are guidelines in their conduct, how they need to conduct themselves, so that other political parties and stakeholders don't really see that they are actually taking part as part of the political class or voters or anybody. But yes, there are guidelines.
Okay. Now, Article 84H is the article that speaks on elections observers, and it commands IBC to facilitate the observation, monitoring, and the evaluations of elections. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what is your position? Can we go into an election where there is no election observer? Like, for example, none of them has applied to observe our elections. Will that election still proceed without observers?
The value of an election observation is to bring back confidence or to bring trust into the process. And it will not be acceptable to have an election without that kind of group of people. It might be seen that election observation has been people have boycotted that role. And it is important that people have that, but it will not stop the election from continuing.
So what will you do as a commissioner?
As a commissioner, definitely I would like to see that everybody is involved. Just like we encourage people to vote, to take voters' card and to vote, we'll also be encouraging people to work with us in giving us feedback on how we have run our election. So election observation is very critical, is very important, and I'd like to see people register as election observers.
Thank you. Okay, you've received their reports after you are commissioner, and you received their reports after the election process. Okay? And in all their reports, they have said that the election is a sham, rigged, not transparent. Okay? What will you do?
If they...
All of them, let's say there were 100 observers, and all of them in an election that you are presiding return a verdict that the election is a sham, not transparent, nothing. What will you do?
I will agree with them. And I will take note that, yes, we have done a bad job because they have given us an opportunity to reflect on the work that we have done. They have actually returned a verdict. When they return a verdict of that nature, people just don't go out there and say lies for the sake of it, but they will give us evidence as to why they think it was a sham and it was rigged. And we will be actually, as a commission, say, yes, indeed, people have said this. We need to go into our strategy and do a better job.
So will you declare that election also to be a nullity?
As IEBC...
Or will you approach court and tell them that, yes, I agree, there is no election? What will you do? That's what I want you to address.
People are taken to court. You don't take yourself to court. So as IEBC, I will only be benefiting from the response from all election observers and say that we need to do a better job than this, but I will not go to court and accuse myself and say that, in fact, what we had done is a sham, it was rigged. No, I will not do that. I will only benefit from working on improving the work that we had done that turned out badly.
Thank you. And all the best.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Solonka. I'll now request Madam Elizabeth Mayo to ask a few questions.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Once more, good morning, Mr. Nyagaya.
Nyangaya.
Nyangaya, okay.
Yes, there's an accent somewhere.
Okay. Mr. Let me call you Justice, eh?
Yes, please do.
Yes, Justice, you have told us that your party, the SDP, you supported a woman presidential candidate, and I believe that was Honorable Charity Ngilu.
Yes, indeed.
Who is currently the governor of Kitui County?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, and that has given women permission to be part and parcel of political leadership in this country. I'm just quoting your words.
Yes, okay. I agree.
Okay. In terms of implementing the two-third gender rule, there's been two schools of thought that have played out in public debate with respect to the realization of the two-thirds gender principle. You are aware of this?
Yes, I am.
Okay. One school of thought is of the view that the participation of women in politics be progressive. Yeah? Then the other school of thought believes it should be realized immediately. What are your thoughts on both of these points of view? Justice.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Yes, very good question. And I think there are, people are right when they say that it should be realized immediately or it should be progressive. If indeed we are going by the school of thought that it should be progressive, then it will mean, therefore, that we have to encourage more women to take part in electoral process. But that might be hindered by a number of things. It might be hindered by circumstances that are structural, that stops women from playing a role in the political system. And one of those could be culture that says that we cannot elect a woman, this particular job is for men, and therefore women find it difficult therefore to participate or to be elected into those positions. Now, how do we then sort out this? This is where we come up with special seats, but also come up with strategies that may not necessarily allow allow women to go through certain structures that have not already been taken out, will still hinder them. So we will therefore give women opportunity to be nominated, but to also benefit from special seats, so that their numbers within a certain period of time is increased as we are dealing with those structural challenges that stop women from playing a role in the political leadership of this country.
Okay, thank you. Just as you've talked of structural challenges and culture, what about other barriers that might be stopping women from actively participating in the politics of this country? Apart from these two.
Yes, I just mentioned one, but I think I need to mention others.
Yeah.
Violence, for example, is a big thing. Women really don't want to get involved in something that creates violence. Women naturally are nurturers.
Well, just as Abonyo there, one of the shortlisted candidates to fill the 4 vacant positions at the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. The interviews are currently happening in KICC, just as Abonyo there trying to defend his application to fill the commissioner position in the IEBC. We are continuing with this special coverage of the mini polls in Kimbaa constituency, as well as the Muguga ward in the by-elections. And of course, we have our very own dedicated team of dedicated reporters split across different areas in those two constituency, and of course that Muguga ward. And of course we have our very own Grace Josephine, who is in Muguga ward. Good morning, Grace. If you can hear me, you've been there the entire morning. Kindly bring us up to speed with what is happening in Muguga ward.
Thank you, Musa Sala. Now we've set camp here at Kahuho Uhuru High School, where we are expecting the Jubilee candidate will come in and, of course, make his vote. Now, remember, the Jubilee candidate is Mungara Joseph Gethenji. Now, voters are still continuing to stream in, as others have already voted and have left. Right next to me, I have one of the anticipating voters, high spirits, and they are very patient and still willing to queue. Just welcome. Karibu mami. So let us, what has been your experience?
Nimekuja kwa sababu ya Gethenji Jubilee. Ni neighbor wetu, tumeshukuru sana kwa sababu ni neighbor wetu na ni wetu. Tumeshukuru sana, aende kule atutetee kwa sababu ya wasichana wetu, vijana yetu, wale wajane kama mimi ni mjane, ni neighbor. Nimeshukuru sana. Watu wakikuja hapa wakuje wachukue Jubilee. Nimesema asante.
Ulifika hapa saa ngapi?
Nilifika hapa saa 3 kwa sababu ya githinji. Nimeshukuru sana.
All right, so that is just one of the committed voters who is making sure that she has to cast her vote. And as you can see, just right beside me, the COVID-19 protocols are being observed. Everyone who is getting into the polling station has to wash their hands and, of course, have their temperatures checked. And as she said, of course, she wants a new MCA, someone who will represent her rights. And as I might also just remind you, the main role of an MCA is to maintain close contact with the electorate, consult them on issues before or under discussion in the county assembly. Now, several public surveys have indicated that Kenyans interact with their MCAs the most compared to other elected representatives. Now, this means that public trust or confidence in the member of the county assembly is extremely important prior. Now, present views, opinions, and proposals. This is not the role of the MCA once again. He's meant to present views, opinions, and proposals of the electorate to the county assembly. We are an indirect democracy, so it's only one person who can represent the larger group of people. And then also, he is meant to present proposals like those under the World Development Fund. And you've heard that voter talk about, development. She'd like him, to do A, B, C, D for them. Also, the MCA is meant to present the budget process in the country to his electorates, which is also an avenue for him, of course, to interact with them freely and at a much closer level. Now, one more role of the MCA is to provide linkage between the county assembly and the electorate on public service delivery. County governments as well provide crucial information on public services such as healthcare, agriculture, water, and pre-primary education. So an MCA should rather maintain or rather ensure there is civic education among his electorates. Now, previously we were at Mogoga where we saw the UDA candidate, that is Peter Vumbi, cast his vote, as well as one more candidate who is representing the People's Party. And here we are expecting the Jubilee candidate to come and do the same later on in the afternoon. So we are all here, systems go, everything is running smoothly. We'll be right here to inform you of all outcomes. Back to you in studio, Musa Salah.
Well, that is our very own Grace Josephine in Muguga Ward, just trying to take a look at some of the polling stations, and she indeed tells us and confirms to us that all systems are running smooth in Muguga Ward during that by-election. Of course, she will be on standby and will be linking up with her later on during this special coverage of the mini polls, that is Kimbaa constituency as well as Muguga Ward. We are now linking up with our very own Joash Onsare, who is in Kimbaa constituency, and he has been in several polling stations, including in Muguga Ward. Good morning, Joash Onsare. You've been through to those polling stations. How was the voter turnout?
Good morning to you, Musa Salah. We are coming to you live from Kimbaa constituency, from Timbegwa Primary School, which is a polling station in this constituency. And in this particular constituency, it has over 95,000 registered voters, and it has 8 contestants who are vying for this particular position. This is after the death of Paul Koinange, who died because of COVID-19, and this constituency has got 154 polling stations. And here I'm joined by some of the residents, the voters who have voted this morning, to hear what do they have to say concerning this particular exercise that took off 6 a.m. in the morning and expected to close at 5 p.m. Karibu sana kwa kuwasili hapa ili uzungumze nasi. Tuambie jina lako na umepiga kura yako.
Asante sana. Kwa jina naitwa Joseph Mudharia. Nimepiga kura yangu na nashukuru Mungu sana kwa sababu najua watu wameomba. Tunatii amri ya serikali ya ya IBC ya kuona ya kwamba tumefanya vile inatakikana, na haswa kuona ya kwamba tunataka kuchagulia mjumbe ule ambaye tunataka. Tumemchagua, mimi nimemchagua kibinafsi na nimefurahia hiyo jambo kwa sababu nimepatiwa uwezo wa kufanya hivyo. Kwa hivyo namshukuru Mungu na washukuru wote ambaye wamekuja na watu wamejitokea sasa kwa wingi.
Labda nikuulize, ni nini kilikuchochea wewe kama mpiga kura kuamka asubuhi na mapema kuja kushiriki zoezi hili?
Mimi ni kwa kawaida nampenda mbunge kwa sababu najua mbunge ndiye anaenda parliament kutafuta hata mambo ya pesa ya maendeleo, na kwa vile mheshimiwa Koinange alikuwa na hiyo jabu, ningetaka kuwe na mtu mwingine pia ambaye ataendelea na hiyo shughuli, na bila mbunge hatimaye nchi na hii boma yetu haiwezi kaendelea vile inatakikana. Kwa hivyo hiyo ndio jambo ambayo imenifanya niamke mapema nichague mjumbe wangu.
Shukran sana kwa kuzungumza na TV47. Musa Sala, allow me to get another voter who has just concluded voting, and so that we can be able to hear what she has to say. Mama, karibu sana, tuambie jina lako na zoezi hili limekuwa vipi kwako?
Kwa majina naitwa Joyce Wabui na nimeokoka. Nimekuja kuchaguana ndio tupate maendeleo hapa Kiambaa na tuone mabadiliko.
Labda wewe ni mama, wewe ni mke, umekuja hapa kushiriki zoezi hili na labda ni zoezi ambalo linafanyika kwa mara ya kwanza, uchaguzi mdogo. Uchaguzi huu una maana gani kwako?
Tunataka kuona mabadiliko.
Asante sana kwa kuzungumza na TV47. Musa Sala, those are some of the voters who have already cast the ballot, and we will be here to ensure that we give the views and also the coverage to our viewer. And in this constituency, there is heavy deployment of security officers to ensure there is calm during this exercise, and also the COVID-19 protocols are keenly followed. For example, my camera person, if can show you, we have people who are coming here to vote. They have to wash their hands to ensure that the COVID-19 virus is being combated. And also, if you will show, we have the media is still waiting here at the Mbegwa Primary School. This polling station, it's where the UDA candidate in Njuguna Wanjiko is expected to vote anytime from now. So we'll be keeping an eye on this particular polling station so that we can bring our viewer up to speed on what is happening from Kiambaa constituency in the course of this day. Back to you, Musa Sala.
Well, thank you so much, Joash Onsare. I can see long lines, of course, voters lining up to cast their votes in Kiambaa constituency, and therefore it is presumed that the voter turnout is quite satisfactory in Kiambaa constituency. I've seen you spoken to a few of the voters in that particular polling station, and they are yearning for change in Kiambaa constituency. Our very own Mwangi Maina is also on standby in the same constituency at a different polling station. Good morning, Mwangi Maina. You had earlier on told us about the scuffle in one of the polling stations involving Majority Leader, National Assembly Majority Leader Amos Kimunya. Kindly tell us up to date, has normalcy resumed in Kiambaa constituency?
Well, thank you so much, Musa Sala. Good morning to you again. We are in the 4th polling station. Right now we are in Kihara Ward, and this is Gashie Primary School. I beg your pardon. We are having 8 polling stations here with around 6,000 voters here. Voters are lining up in the different polling stations. And just to let you know concerning the fracas that we witnessed at Kimuga Cattle Dip polling station there, polling center, where we found youths there. They were demanding that Majority Leader in the National Assembly, Amos Kimunya, be ejected, but he maintained that he is an agent for their candidate. Right now we are normalcy returned there. We are not yet sure whether UDA candidate will be voting at that particular polling station or will be voting at the Mbegwa polling station. So we are just on the lookout to know where he will be casting his vote. But to tell you, here at Gashie Primary School, the Jubilee candidate Karanja Kareri Njama will be making his way in here any moment from now. And out of the 8 polling stations that are here, he will be voting in polling station number 5. So 4 classes behind me, or rather 4 polling stations behind me. The line you can see with the queue, where you can see there are a lot of voters. That is where he will be casting his vote. Salah, to let you know that all these polling stations, when a voter comes in, they present their ID, and depending on their first name, the letter of their first name, they are being directed to the polling station they are supposed to be in. Like, if my camera person is supposed, can be able to show you here, like this is room 2. Any person whose name begin with letter C, D, E, and F, they are supposed to vote in polling station number 2. And if I can be able to read clearly, we have 678 voters who are supposed to vote in this particular polling station. So we are waiting for the Jubilee candidate, Kareri Njama, who will be casting his vote here, and we will be bringing you a live update on the proceedings as he cast his vote. Salah, I was speaking to some of the presiding officers in this polling center, and one of the challenges they have encountered is that there are people who are coming to vote here in Kimbaa, yet they are not registered members. They are not registered voters. Say somebody comes from another place, but by the virtue that they stay in Kimbaa, so they think they can vote in this place. But some of them are being turned away, because for you to vote here, you have to be a registered voter in this particular polling station. Outside Gashie Primary School, there is a list of all the registered voters in this particular polling center. So if your name is not in that list, then you are not allowed to vote in this particular place. So as you can see, where we were in the other polling stations, we didn't see a lot of voters here. We can see there is quite a number of voters, but in this particular polling station number 2, we can only see 2 people. We can see one old man being led by the queuing clerk to enter to the polling station, so that he can be guided on what to do, indicating that his name is either of beginning with either letter C, D, E, and F, and that is why he is being ushered into the polling station. Salah, it is also important to let you know that IEBC officials are doing all they can to make sure they are assisting every voter. As you can see, this queuing clerk here assisting this old man to get into the polling station and exercise his democratic right of voting his preferred candidate. Salah, another update, just to let you know, when we were speaking to Amos Kimunya earlier, he said that he is a registered member of the Jubilee Party, in that case a member of parliament, and so that is why he is an agent there in his full capacity. He told us that why other members of parliament are complaining, especially those affiliated to UDA, is because they cannot become agents in this particular by-election, and that is why you see there is some push and pull on if some MPs are supposed to be in other polling stations or not. So that is a brief from Gashie Primary School, waiting for Jubilee candidate Kareri Karanja Njama, and when he sets his foot in this particular polling center, we will be bringing you live that update. Back to you in studio, Musa Salah.
Well, our very own Mwangi Maina there in, of course, Gashie Primary School polling station, confirming to us that the normalcy has resumed in, of course, Kimuga polling station, where there was a little bit of scuffle involving the majority leader in the National Assembly, Amos Kimunya. And of course, we are following up on the mini polls in Kimbaa constituency as well as Muguga ward. Our team of dedicated reporters are spread across those 2 particular areas. Of course, Mwangi Maina is in Kimbaa constituency alongside our very own Joash Onsare, and of course Grace Josephine is in Muguga ward, just to make sure that you don't miss out on anything in those 2 mini polls. And of course, we are also keeping an eye on the IEBC selection to, of course, interviews to fill the 4 vacant positions at the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC. We are also keeping an eye on the Sharon Otieno's murder case involving, of course, Migori Governor Okoth Obado. But before, we'll be taking a look at the Sharon murder case in a moment. But before we do that, let's take a short commercial break. This special coverage of the mini polls continues in a moment.